Welcome to Books and Authors. I'm your host, Chris O'Donnell, and tonight I'm joined by Hilton Head Island resident Deb Welch, whose first book, Flashback, a Low Country novel, earned an iUniverse Publisher's Choice designation for editorial integrity and design quality. Well, she's back with her second book, Payback, a Nate Dunleavy novel, a compelling story reuniting the unsung heroes of Flashback in a desperate fight against terrorism from the Middle East to Washington, D.C. Deb, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris.
And we appreciate having you back. And as we chatted off camera, I thoroughly enjoyed reading this second installment. And I harked back quickly to the first novel, and it was wonderful to kind of get reacquainted with your characters. And it was good to visit with them again, I guess you could say.
Well, thank you for having me again, Chris.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate the opportunity to tell people about Payback, the new novel that is the sequel to Flashback.
Absolutely. Let's get a little bit of background on you. You've been on the island now for almost 20 years, I understand.
Just about 20 years, exactly.
How did you get here, and more importantly, has writing always been your profession or maybe your desired profession?
Writing has always been a small portion of my profession, but not so much creative writing, which would be novel writing and literature. Most of my writing was expository writing or technical writing for a previous career where I was installing healthcare systems in hospitals throughout the country for 14 years.
This is a little more exciting.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, very good. Well, let's chat a little bit about how you got into this genre. And off camera, we were kind of talking quickly about this isn't the normal book that female writers would tackle. And it's full of thriller, it's full of suspense. How did you get involved in this type of writing?
Probably because of what I read. I like novels that are full of action, that are full of current events, that deal with today's dilemmas, whether they be dealing with a war situation or just political intrigue. Michael Connelly, David Baldacci, Vince Flynn, those are three of my favorite authors, and I read pretty much everything they write. I can't take it away from John Grisham, who's also in the legal genre.
To that type of action thriller.
Right, and I read my share of female authors too, but I guess the books I gravitate to are the ones that I felt I would try to emulate when I became a writer.
Absolutely. Well, let's chat a little bit about the characters in Payback. Now, we've got a reprisal of the main characters in Flashback.
Right. That's right.
And these are great characters, so let's talk about each of them.
That's why I wanted them to live on.
Exactly. Let's start with Nate.
Okay.
Nate Dunleavy. I mean, here's a guy that, as a guy, you want to be. I mean, this guy's got everything. Let's talk
he's
about
not perfect.
No, he's got his moments, but he is obviously one of those guys that gets things done.
Yes, he is. Yes, he's a former Navy SEAL. And basically, after serving officially in the military, he's kind of been shuffled aside by a counter-terrorist expert that we refer to as the Admiral. And he gets sent on those missions where if something doesn't work out right, the government can pretend that he was never there. I have a feeling that we have a lot of those people wandering around the world, and nobody really wants to talk about it, but something tells me we probably have a lot of those people out there.
I would say he is quite in the now, if you will. And he has a brother, actually, that works with him.
Yes, actually a stepbrother.
Stepbrother, yes. Yes, and this guy's also the same, I guess, cut from the same cloth.
Yes, the dynamic duo, if you want to think of it. But a little different personality-wise. Nate is a little bit more reserved. Devin's a little bit more impulsive, if you want to call it that way, just a little bit more upfront when Nate kind of stands back from the situation. But they complement each other because of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we have two females who happen to be sisters.
Right.
And that would be the O'Connors.
Right.
And tell us about both of them.
Well, Eve is the one that Nate has become romantically involved in, and they're having a little bit of a difficulty because their relationship has gone beyond the infatuation stage, and it's now whether or not it's going to cement itself into something that's serious. Eve is the one who's more standoffish. Nate seems to know where he wants to go, and the conflict that creates between the two of them is interesting because Nate's a man who's pretty much used to getting his way, and Eve doesn't give him his way. Katie, who is the sister, well, that's kind of come sometimes on, sometimes off, not really a serious thing between her and Devin. It's more of a head clashing and a testing the waters, but nobody really wants to put their feet in much beyond the big toe.
And these are all very strong
Oh, yeah,
figures.
very
I mean,
much
that's,
so.
That's the one thing that I know the reader takes away.
That's
these,
right.
These are all strong figures, and there's really not any wishy-washiness at all. I mean,
That's right.
they tend to go for it. If they make a mistake, they make a mistake.
That's right. That's why there's a little conflict on every page. Which supposedly is the secret behind writing a decent novel, is you want to...
Are they based on anybody? Are the characters based on anybody in your life? Have you seen these type of people and they borrow a little bit? Or?
Well, obviously some of them must come from some of a conglomeration of the characters that I read and from some of my favorite authors. I mean, everybody knows Mitch Rapp from the Vince Flynn series,
Absolutely.
and I think I probably borrow a little bit from him. There's other characters in the WHHI Camel Club series that you can borrow
Yes.
from. But again, these are people that I created in my own mind,
And of course, you've woven in the Low Country too, which makes it unique.
definitely, very much so in the first novel, Flashback, but also Payback starts out in the Low Country, and then we move them beyond because there aren't a lot of tourists, fortunately, running around the Low Country. So if I have gentlemen in my book who are counter-terrorist experts, I have to take them to the battle.
Yes.
And in Payback, we move them into Washington, D.C., because there's some political intrigue there. The book starts out in Madrid, where they are assigned to prevent a catastrophe at the Santiago Bernabeu soccer stadium, which is the home of Real Madrid, who people might remember that David Beckham had played for before he married a Spice Girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that brings up a question. When I read that, of course, the first thing I thought of was the upcoming World Cup in South Africa and what we're all going to be dealing with as a security issue. Was that in your mind when you wrote this? Do you have inspirations as far as maybe things that have actually happened or events that are upcoming? And does that shape any of it?
Well, I do believe that Al-Qaeda is out there trying to threaten the free world every possibility, in every way it can. Right now, their target has been on airlines, but when you think of a stadium full of people and the way they disperse these suicide bombers, there's a way for them to wreak havoc. And I guess I focused on the European venue first because I think those countries are probably dealing with it a little bit more immediately by virtue of the subway system in London that had been attacked in 2005, and also in Madrid, going back to the venue, the 2004 train bombing that killed over 2,000 people.
So I'm sure that had a little bit to do with it as well, I would imagine.
Yes, yeah. And also there's some history of the Muslim culture in Madrid going back to the 9th century.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And Andalusia, which is basically the region surrounding Madrid, was kind of a mecca for the early cultures of Muslim were math and science and astronomy. They were excelling, and they had universities there while Europe was going through the Dark Ages.
You're almost answering my next question, which is the research on doing the book. You've obviously done your research. I mean, when I look at the different spots, of course, my question is, how much research did you have to do? Because you're taking the novel out of the Low Country, and now it's global.
Right.
And obviously quite a bit about Al-Qaeda. Question would be, did you ever feel maybe a little uncertain about taking such a dark, notorious institution like Al-Qaeda and writing about it?
It's what we're living with today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of our lives. We can't get on a plane anymore without practically stripping naked, if you think about it.
Yes.
And at the same time, you're dealing with articles in the newspaper where a couple SEALs over there might have punched a terrorist, and now they're being court-martialed, and I'm saying, there's an imbalance going on here because the Al-Qaeda organization and the threat of terrorism, it does affect us, and yet we really don't know whether we're at battle with them or not. And we kind of hamstring, I think, those people that were charged with protecting us.
Did you, when you were doing the research for the book, did you find enough information about Al-Qaeda to really feel informed, or was a lot of it scrubbed?
Well, you can find just about anything on the internet, and I do a lot of research on the internet.
Which I think is good and bad at sometimes.
Yeah, we have to weed through what's real and what's imagined, because there's a lot of misinformation out there too.
Well, what we're going to do is take a break right there, and we'll be right back with more books and authors.